Today we have been talking about some very serious topics, but when things get abusive, it's time to get real serious.
Our next guest has actually been living this nightmare. We want to welcome Heather Smith-Woolsey with us today. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you
I really
for being
appreciate
here.
this opportunity.
Well, this is an important topic that we're going to bring up, domestic violence.
Yeah, it is.
And we appreciate your openness
Yeah.
about the subject, but we feel like it's an important enough thing to share with our viewers, and hopefully that if it can reach someone that's in need, we'll have done our job.
I think it's something sensitive that probably nobody wants to talk about,
True.
and they don't talk about it enough, probably.
That's
I mean,
correct.
that's the whole problem.
That is the whole problem.
Can you give us a little bit of background on your personal story?
Sure. So I always say before I tell my personal story, I was victimized, but I am not a victim. I survived very hard things, but I'm not a survivor. I'm me, and I absolutely love me, and I want to make sure people understand that.
That's beautiful.
I am a mother of 6 beautiful children, and they are the absolute pride of my life. I was married for 20 years, and unfortunately, it was a really hard marriage. It was very abusive. When I finally did get out, I moved all the way across the country to get away from him, and he followed me out here, which left me fighting for 5 years to get him to stop stalking and harassing me. And we finally, this past fall, after a horrific fight, got him put in prison where he belongs. So it's been quite the journey.
Wow.
Yeah.
What gave you, how did you find the strength to realize what was going on and that you needed to get out? I mean, you have 6 children.
I have 6 children. And this is a harder part. We can just jump right to it. But for years in my marriage, I was told that if I left, he would kill me. So I stayed because I didn't want to die. I want to be a mom. The day that he did try and kill me was the hardest day of my life. I actually had to face God. I had to realize that I lived in a way where I could stand in front of him, and you know what, I did it. And it is by the grace of God that I am still here. I just realized after that day that it wasn't any longer if I left he would kill me, it was if I stayed I would die. So I left. But it took it to that point to give me the courage to get out.
What is it that changes over the course of those years? So, you know, when you meet Prince Charming and you have these ideals that you're going to have this life and you're going to make this life together and have these beautiful children, and just a little bit of what I had read kind of in your story also, all of a sudden it's, why is that man looking at you? Or starting to make kind of these accusations toward you, and there's nothing you are doing.
Correct, and that is something that happens in all abusive relationships, whether it be emotional or physical. The abuser will control you. They will try and question why you've talked to people, or why people talk to you, or why it took so long to get milk, or why you're wearing what you're wearing, or why you did what you did. And they're all just things they're using to control you, to let you know that I mean, honestly, they own you. You become property, which is really hard. You lose your identity and you absolutely become an object. You become their property. And it's a hard way to live.
I'm certain that because you're a fabulous mother, even if there are those instances when there's a chance to get away, or if I just left now, you can't leave your children, right? So I mean,
Right.
I guess it would probably be that fine line of, how do I go? How do I take them? How do I keep them safe? How do I keep me safe? How does a victim start to recognize those signs?
So
Did you try to leave?
I have tried to leave. One of the other threats I always had is that he would take my children. And I refused to leave them. So I would never leave my children there. I know about 10 years into the marriage, it did get very violent one night. And I decided to leave, and I ran away. I had
With
to
the
leave.
kids?
I didn't have the
Okay.
kids with me. I had to run away because it was the first time he threatened to kill me, and he was going to do it. And I ran out the back door with nothing, and I hid behind a grocery store, and I called the police. When the police came, I explained to them not only what had happened that night, but what had been going on throughout the marriage and why I was so scared and that I wanted my kids out of there. After the police talked to me and explained to me that just because I had red marks and they weren't bruises, they didn't quite believe me, and then they talked to him. And he let the police know that I was just a hysterical housewife and that I just needed to be, you know, calmed down and got back in control, and he would do that. He assured them he would. I know. They refused to press charges, and that was probably one of the hardest and worst decisions of my life because
So they did nothing?
They did nothing, and that is a huge problem. I mean, our police force and our law enforcement, they have come a long way. They have invested a lot of time and energy and training. They have put a lot of programs in place for the police officers to understand, and mind you, this was about 16 years ago, and we've come a long way.
Right.
But that is a huge problem. You know, so if a woman wants to leave, and that's a huge point, they need to get a safety plan in place. They need to reach out and start talking to someone. There are national hotlines, there are state hotlines. You can call any police station and ask to talk to an advocate. The advocates will talk to you and help you put a safety plan in place, and you don't even have to file a police report. They will work with you confidentially and help you work on a long-term plan to get out where you and your children will be safe. Safety plans include where are you going to go? Who are your emergency contacts? Do you have the proper information, the paperwork, birth certificates? Do you have spare money put away? I mean, you go through literally everything. You literally make a secret plan to get away. But that is what you have to do to get out of these relationships. And victims out there need to know that there is a way out. It does take planning, but there are so many people that will help you. It just takes a phone call, and it can be kept private and secret, and they will help you do that.
Do you think there's a lot of,
Go.
Do you think there's a lot of women here in, you know, Utah Valley or Utah, wherever?
So statistics in Utah, they say 1 in 3 women will be abused in their lifetime.
Wow.
And actually, in Utah. Statistics, though, we are looking, they're a little bit older, and we try and keep up with it. I actually think it's 1 in 2. So in their lifetime, 1 in 2 women will be abused in their lifetime. 42% of the homicides in Utah are domestic violence related. You have 3 women per month in Utah killing themselves because they can't take the abuse anymore. And these are the things that we don't talk about. But I know, but it's happening. It happened to me. It's happening to my friends. It's happening to my neighbors. It's happening in my community. And I can't sit by silently and let it happen anymore. We have to stand up and say no more.
Right, absolutely.
Well, since you've been able to share your story and kind of bring it to the forefront, there are some laws that are now kind of going into effect, and as you have started to discuss, ways that people can reach out for help.
Sure.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back from that break, we'll talk about some of those ways that we can help those that are maybe being victimized. Back after this.